Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Damian. Thanks for having me.
Derek Walsh made your way here from Ireland to come and visit us today. So tell people that don't know you a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Derek Walsh from Ireland, and I'm a beef producer in Ireland, small farm. And yeah, I met Damian last year. I was looking at feeding the rich in the south of France, so I did a bit of research and came across Riviera Gourmet, and struck up a bit of a friendship.
Yeah.
So I'm here for the second time.
Yeah, still trying to sell.
Still trying to sell him something.
This is the reason. Obviously, when I phoned you the other day and you said you're in the south of France, I was like, right, let's have a chat, because obviously something that we do is we sell a lot of beef, and I think there's a lot to be said about beef. I mean, I love a good steak, whether it's a normal straight down the middle fillet all the way through to a tomahawk or a bavette or anything. I mean, every cut you can imagine I enjoy. I like it. I've got different recipes, and I know there's a lot of our clients who probably have heard certain information about beef that I'm not sure is true. I think the press probably pushes certain stuff that's not true, and I think today, talking to an actual farmer and producer of probably one of the best beefs you can get as well, and one of the most upcoming areas of the world where beef is produced, which is Ireland, I think we can find out a few facts today and maybe help some people out with some information. So I think that's where we'll probably start. Again, there's probably lots of stories you've got to tell us. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear these things. You've got a nice story about going to Estonia. I want to hear about that as well. No, but my first question would be, what's the difference between Irish beef and maybe British or French or one of the other European countries that producing beef? What's the main difference, would you say?
So I suppose the main difference about Irish beef is the diet. Ireland is a very temperate climate with lots and lots of rain. If anyone knows anything about Ireland, it's shaped like a saucer. And the first thing that happens when you arrive there, you get rained on. So I'm going back tomorrow to Ireland, and we're going to land on the plane, and coming from 30 degrees of heat to rain.
Yeah.
So
well, you showed me a picture earlier, and we'll put it up on the screen in this podcast, of the fields out there right now. And here, everything's
so it's
brown.
It's barren.
Yeah.
To me, when you get on the plane in Ireland, Ireland is green. Ireland is green in December, it's green in February, it's green in January, February, March, the whole year round, unless something really, really freaky happens, like the sun shines for more than a week. It's generally green, and it's just a nice middle of the road climate, good for growing grass, and that's how our beef we're able to produce so much of it. Because we have this cheap diet, which is grass, natural product, and the cattle, they taste great. It's slightly different to what comes in from other parts of the world, because a lot of the other, you have American and you have Australian beef, which tastes fantastic, but it's a grain-based diet. For me, Irish beef is natural. Yeah,
because the picture you sent me is literally green fields, and it's up to their knees. So this is what they're doing all day, is just eating fresh green grass.
Yeah, we stuff them like apples.
So is there, because when you read on the label grass fed, from wherever it may be in the world, there's a big difference between grass in one place and grass in another.
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily basically beautiful green grass that's being eaten somewhere. It's grass could be labelled as anything that's green or semi-green or even dried.
Yeah.
Like hay.
Yeah. So if you go to South America, a lot of you go to Argentina or wherever, and it's grass fed, but it's probably a lot of it is dried grass.
Yeah. And that's a completely different diet.
It's totally different.
It's the same in all food. People say one strawberry is another. Each strawberry is the same. It's not. And I always say this a lot, and I'll probably get shot one day. But if you've got an organic, grown outdoors in the sun strawberry compared to one grown in fertilizer behind lights, they're a different product. Absolutely. They might have strawberry on the pack, but it's a different product, and I know which I'd prefer to eat.
Yeah.
And I think as far as beef's concerned, grass-fed and grass-fed are two separate things. Is that a fair assumption?
Absolutely. And you mentioned strawberries there. I had a customer over from France a couple of years ago, and I had him in the southeast of Ireland where they grow strawberries in July.
Yeah.
That's when you get strawberries.
Yeah.
Not in January.
There you go. Yeah.
Or February.
Yeah.
You get strawberries in July, and it's called Wexford.
Okay.
So Wexford strawberries. And I said, I'm going to get you some strawberries on the side of the road. And I gave him some strawberries. And he was, wow. Couldn't believe the taste of a real strawberry.
Yeah.
Grown outside in July.
Yeah.
Not January.
And that's the thing about food. If you do want the best food, you have to eat seasonal.
Yeah.
Where it's good, when it's good. Because as you know, everybody seems to want a blueberry in January. Well, a blueberry in January is going to come from southern hemisphere.
In a plane.
And it's going to be gassed, which means it doesn't go off very quickly.
Yeah.
In some cases, I think I was even reading recently about the kiwi fruit from New Zealand. It's frozen.
Yeah.
It's picked and then frozen. It's picked ripe. The golden kiwi is picked ripe and then frozen. Travels all around the world frozen, and then defrosted to be put in your supermarket. I was like, how? I was literally baffled by it. So I think just because a label says grass-fed doesn't mean it's grass-fed, does it? Not truly.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you have certain times of the year in Ireland when we have our cold months, December, January. Yeah. And some cattle are indoors for those periods. But you can keep cattle out 365. Yeah. It's not a major deal to keep cattle out 365. Yeah. And it's so much healthier.
And tell me how long have you been involved in this industry, beef farming?
I came from a farming background where we lived on the outskirts of the city, and we used to supply vegetables and milk to the city. Yeah. Back the old-fashioned way, where the farmer brought in produce from the outskirts, and there was only two types of vegetables: turnips and carrots in the winter, and I suppose you had cabbage as well, and then you had periods when there was no vegetables, and but that was it back then. Now we're getting whatever you want. 12 months of the year you can have peaches in January. Yeah. Where right now,
but it's complete bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if you get a peach, even here in May, you know, our clients are turning up for Grand Prix, Cannes Film Festival. I love some nice ripe peaches. You're living in a fucking dream world. It ain't happening. Yeah. It's not. You may get it to a point where it's edible, but it's going to taste like shit because it's not the season for peaches and nectarines and apricots and plums. It's just not the season. So you can maybe find them in certain places. Maybe they're coming through that first batch, but they're terrible.
So we're talking about seasons here, and we're talking about different types of vegetables and whatever. But the big thing about Irish beef is that we have this grass diet, 365, 52 weeks of the year, and we have a consistent product right throughout the year.
But that consistent, this is a good question. So, and I was thinking about this last night. I was doing some work on my computer. I was thinking about our chat today, and I was just thinking, what sort of questions do I really need the answers to? And I want to know something from somebody who knows what they're talking about, because I don't get to speak to them very often. And I think a lot of us make it up. Now, you said they're eating grass 365 days a year. That grass is changing through the year as the seasons are. Absolutely. It's still green grass, but we're talking about a different flavour. We're talking about that must flavour the beef differently. And also the cattle, if you're slaughtering them in January when it's cold, does it create a different flavour in the beef compared to an animal that's been sitting out in 15 degrees in the summer? Yeah. Well, I'm joking, I don't want temperature 25. Is that creating...
If you go across Europe, and especially a new market that I've looked into recently, which is up in the Baltics, and we started there in January this year, where it was minus 40 or something like that up there, and the beef was absolutely horrible.
Really?
The local stuff, you just couldn't eat it. And I brought up Irish beef, and it was wow. But when you go to that part of the world right now, their beef is on a par, you know, because the cattle are outside, the temperature is okay, there's not a lot of stress with animals travelling to abattoirs and whatever in really cold temperatures. So their meat at this time of the year is on a par. Not too sure about the French. I said this time of the year in France, the cattle are sweating a little bit. They're a little bit warm.
Yeah.
So.
And do you not find that if they're hot, they eat less?
Yeah, absolutely. They eat less.
And so you're not getting such a.
Yeah.
Not the same fat content, I would presume.
Yeah.
And that's a big issue with beef because
they can be a little bit watery. We call it in the trade.
Right. So okay. So yes, but it's not liquid. It's more of a reduced flavour.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then the type of breeds that we have in Ireland, we have a totally different breed system than what they'll have in France.
So what do you have in Ireland?
So our predominant herd in Ireland, because of the grass and because of the temperate climate, we have a very, very big dairy industry. So we do a lot of crosses. So we cross Angus with the dairy herd, and our main dairy breed would be Frisian, British Frisian, which is actually really good beef. But when you cross it with an Angus, or you cross it with a Hereford, Belted Galloway, Irish Moyle, Shorthorn, those breeds, you get something special.
Okay.
And they're breeds that, me personally, I love. I don't really go for the continental breeds. I just find that they don't put on the same amount of fat.
Yeah.
And for me, fat is flavour.
Yeah, agree completely. Yeah. And there's two types of fat as well, isn't there? I mean, you've got the fat that goes through the actual meat, which is very thin, melts whilst you're cooking it, and creates the flavour. Yeah. And then you've got obviously the other fat, and this is for people that maybe aren't chefs, but you get the other sort of fat that never renders down. It's grizzle really.
Yeah.
And you get that in different cuts, like a paleron. What the hell's a paleron in English?
So it's a feather blade.
Feather blade. Okay, so you get that really gristly, thick piece of see-through.
Yeah, it's a membrane in the centre.
It's a membrane. You can't
nerve.
Do shit with that, can you? I mean, it just stays there.
It depends on the way it's cooked.
Yeah.
I've actually been very successful with that.
Oh, really?
Because it's a less known cut. The paleron in Ireland, it's used a lot in northern Italy.
Yeah.
In the winter time, it's a stable diet where they slow cook it.
Yeah.
And they use a full paleron for a family, and so we started doing a little bit of that in Ireland with some of the restaurants. We've been slow cooking feather blade, and they'll give a portion of feather blade with maybe the fillet. So it's a cheaper option to, just give someone a little bit different taste on the plate.
Yeah. And you managed to break that membrane down pretty much.
Well, when it's slow cooked, that should dissolve.
Should go, really?
Like beef cheek, the same as eating beef cheek.
Yeah, okay. And so here we get a lot of Irish Angus. A lot of the suppliers that we use will have Irish Angus as an option.
Yep.
And it is quite popular. I find in this industry, I think it needs to change a bit, because generally I've only got a few chefs who, when I talk about your dry aging, they get very excited.
Yeah.
I would say those are probably some of the more high-end chefs who get it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of chefs who just go Black Angus, Australian, American.
Yeah.
Now, and again, I'm not criticising those beefs. I mean, we've been selling them for years. They're very popular. People love them. They've got lots of flavour. If I cook, excuse me, if I cook for example, a Black Angus, a brisket from US or Australia, something like, for example, a Ranges Valley. I'm sure you've heard of Ranges Valley. Very popular for our clients. A lot of them really love it. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. But, it's arriving here with at least 3 months life on it. I think that's a lot.
Well, it's...
Is it a lot?
Yeah, it's a major question. Big question, because in my plant, which is really, really, really clean, hygiene is number one.
Yeah.
Temperature is up there as well.
Yeah.
But hygiene is really important for what we do, and good packaging and whatever. So my packaging is every bit as good as anyone.
Yeah.
And I looked into that and I said, right, how come my beef lasts 45 days in the bag and then I'm in trouble? It's over.
Yeah.
My shelf life is gone. So I did the research, and basically in the US and Australia, the animal is treated on the slaughter line. So he's treated with some type of acid that they use to kill any bugs on the outside of the carcass.
Okay.
And prolong the shelf life. Now that's not permitted in Europe, so we won't go there. And
so how is it allowed to be imported into Europe if they're doing that?
It's allowed, but it's not practiced in Europe.
Okay.
It is allowed, but not practiced. You know, we have enough stuff in our food without doing that.
Yeah.
And I think we got to keep it a little bit natural if we can. Okay, vacuum packing, it's a great way of preserving food.
Yeah.
But let the meat do what it's meant to do. It's not meant to last for 3 months.
Yeah.
And I was riddled by it for a long time. How can they get this meat to last for 90 days?
Well, you see, I've had issues where we will receive some beef from somewhere like Australia or America, whatever, and chefs, if it's getting close to that date where it's, nearly over, they won't accept it from me.
Yeah.
Like even within 2 weeks of the date, they'll go, no, I don't want it. They want it to have a much longer life on it. But it's a fresh product.
Yeah.
To me, it's. I mean, what is that date? If I buy a packet of beef in the supermarket, any supermarket, and it says, it's a steak, an entrecote, ribeye, and it's one steak, and it's 250 grams, and it says on the packet, consumed by this date.
Yeah.
Now, what that date is presuming I'm keeping it at least 5 degrees in a home fridge.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, commercially, you'd probably have your fridges down at between 1 and 2.
Yeah. So we're running our fridges. We're trying to keep as close to 0 as possible.
Right.
And in our dry age fridges, we're operating at 0 to 4 degrees.
Okay.
And the sweet spot is probably 2 degrees. But that's a process in itself. It's another way of aging beef.
Yeah.
For me, it's the ultimate.
But if you're dry aging, is it lasting longer? Has it got a longer shelf life?
So this is the funny thing.
Because you've got 45 days.
Yeah.
You just dry aged it for 28.
Yeah.
How long's left?
So I can get 30 days on a dry age product.
Yeah.
So basically the process is we put the fresh beef into a pre-chill to take a lot of the heavy moisture out of the meat for a couple of days, and then it's put into the dry age room.
Okay.
Because that will affect the product that's already in there. We don't want to have a lot of humidity going on in the room.
Yeah.
The wind speed has to be quite low in the room, but most important, the room has to be ultra clean.
Yeah.
And temperature control is very important as well. So we found the sweet spot for dry aging is 28 days from the date of slaughter.
Yeah.
And at that point we'll debone whether it's the ribeye, côte de boeuf, strip loin. They're the main cuts that we'll use for dry aging, and we'll bone them at that point, and then we can get a shelf life then of 30 days after that.
After the dry aging.
And that's validated. We do a lot of micro testing, so we validate that process.
So generally, you slaughter the animal, you dry age for 28 days, and then when it comes out of the dry aging process and you package it, it's 30 days from that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that is extending your 45 days then from a normal piece, isn't it? Which is actually fucking win-win.
It's a bit strange as well, but then I suppose we when we take the dry aged meat out and we debone it, we do a lot of extra trimming on it.
Yeah.
We trim any dark edges because it's going to get a little crusty on the outside. So we get rid of that because that can affect your shelf life.
But you're losing product.
Yeah, you're losing product.
You're losing weight that you could be selling.
But the taste of the product. It's going to blow away any.
But why is dry aging taste better?
It intensifies the taste, that beefy taste, and you have to be very important. Very important is what you actually put into your dry age room,
because it will soak it in.
Yeah.
So this is very similar to dehydration of anything you would dehydrate.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is with the dehydration is you're taking out the moisture.
Absolutely.
But the problem with a lot of things is a flavour is in the moisture.
Yeah.
So this is why people freeze dry, because if you freeze dry, you get rid of the moisture without taking the flavour out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of freeze dried products are on the market now. A lot of dried. I mean, I had freeze dried ice cream for the first time this season. Right. It's supposed to keep the flavour in it without the moisture.
How did that go?
It was all right. It's a bit weird on the mouth. It's like a bit gooey.
Yeah.
You put it in your mouth and it's sort of solid, and you chew it, and it's a bit like chalk.
Yeah.
A nice chalk, soft, and you crunch it, and you're like, oh, okay, that's ice cream that's freeze dried. It's quite interesting. But I suppose with the dry age process, what you're trying to do is remove some of the moisture, but not all of it. So you don't get rid of all the. You're really concentrating the flavour by doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what's happening is when you place a piece of beef into a dry age chamber, you're getting a seal on the outside.
Yeah.
And it'll form a crust on the outside. So you're locking in.
Yeah, it goes really dark, doesn't it?
Yeah, it'll get dark and crusty. And if you're dry aging properly, it's wow. You just can't beat that. But if you mess it up, if you get it wrong, it's like eating sweaty socks.
So how okay, really? Is it that the difference?
Yeah.
Because I know one guy had I don't think it was promotional. I don't know whether it was real, but he had a room made of Himalayan salt blocks.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was his dry aging room.
So yeah, a lot of people use the Himalayan salt blocks. For me, it's no big deal. Himalayan salt or any of the salt chambers. I don't really think it does a hell of a lot.
Doesn't make any difference, really.
Hygiene is the important thing.
Yeah.
Once your room is clean and your bug count is low in your room, and that maybe the salt will help in that, but I can imagine if you have a wall built of salt blocks, it's going to become saturated at some point.
You need to be changed.
And what are you going to do? Change the wall every month?
Yeah.
Don't think so.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm a bit skeptical.
Bit of a gimmick, maybe.
Yeah, it looks great.
It looks great in photographs when you've got your dry aging room with this rock wall with these bricks of Himalayan salt. Looks cool, doesn't it?
And it's a nice story, but the reality is if you're putting a product into a dry age room, you just got to put in the best product, and that's a rib from a good fat animal with good marble content.
Yeah. That's been grass-fed.
That's been grass-fed.
Living in the outside.
Absolutely.
Feeling free and happy, because that makes a big difference in any animal.
Well, happiness with these animals is so important.
Up until the point at which they're slaughtered.
Absolutely.
And how do you do that? Sneak up on them when they're not watching?
So they
don't know. All of a sudden they're gone and they don't get stressed.
Yeah, well, we won't go into that, but it's very, very important that the animals, that they're living in a happy environment and they're with their own, and that they travel in groups, and then when the day comes that they travel in a group, that are not brought
traveling on a coach.
Group. I think they're going to a new field. Or
tell them they're going to Margate or something.
We're going to somewhere nice.
We're going to have some.
There's no
some
need
jelly
for
deals down by Margate Pier.
And
they don't know any different, do they? They think it's going to be fine.
It's funny. I often get slagged about being a butcher. Like, how the hell can you be an animal lover? But I actually am. And
I agree with you. I think. Look, this whole. This is a bit of a wild one. I'm a believer that if you're going to have an animal for food, you should farm it.
Yeah.
Because it would never have lived otherwise. And there's an old philosopher, Immanuel Kant, who said back in, 1859, something like that. He said, "Is it better to be a pig satisfied or a human dissatisfied?" And this is a very philosophical question that you can ask, and many people will give you different answers. And a lot of humans live their life completely dissatisfied. A lot of pigs don't know any different. living in a pigsty in mud outside with it raining, wandering around, and then all of a sudden someone slits your throat and you're on a bacon sandwich. Is that a bad life?
Yeah.
Well, if you hadn't been farmed, you'd never have lived it. And the question is, when people say, is it better to have lived and loved and lost than never to have loved at all? Well, most people say, no, I'd prefer to have loved. I'd love to. I wanted that experience, even if it went badly at the end, which inevitably most of the time it will. You've got to ask yourself, what do I just not love because it will go to shit one day maybe?
Yeah.
Should I not live in case I get hit by a bus? And if you're an animal, should you not enjoy those days outside eating the grass, which cows love, wandering around with the other cows, having a mope, having a walk through the forest, having a look? And you picked your video you showed me from that farm, the organic farm. They're walking under the trees, they're going through the acorn fields. I mean, it's not a bad life. And there'll be vegans out there who'll go, oh, you're outrageous. Well, if you believe, look, it's difficult. I sell a lot of food, fish, meat, things like that. A lot of our clients want wild sea bass, things like that. But isn't catching a wild fish the same as killing an elephant?
Sure.
Just because there's only a limited amount of wild elephants, it's outlawed. But because there's a lot of sea bass, it's completely fine.
Yeah.
Either it's not about quantity, in my opinion, that should allow you to do something. What, because there's 1.5 billion Chinese, what does that mean we can abuse them? Yeah. No, it doesn't. That's bollocks. You're not allowed to. So in reality, if it's a wild animal, then it should be left as a wild animal, in my opinion. I mean, I'm talking environmentally, that's how I feel. I don't eat wild animals. I eat farmed because I believe that's really the way we've humans have got to that point in evolution now where we can't feed ourselves unless we farm, and we should leave the natural world as it is, and therefore that's why I'm a big fan of farming. Massive fan of farming. There'll be farmers out there all over the world now going, fuck yeah, because I'm a massive fan of it. I think it's the way to feed the world.
Yeah.
I love eating meat. I'm a meat eater. I eat vegetarian food as well, but I love meat. I'm not massively on fish, but if I do eat fish, I prefer to have farmed if I can. And some people go, yeah, but it's fattier. It's got that layer of fat on the outside of the skin because they're not swimming as much. I get that. All right, no problem. But I make a choice based on what I personally believe. As I always say to people, this is called it's just conjecture. It's my opinion. Yeah. It's not. I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong. Your opinions on Irish beef is your opinion because you're an expert in it. That's why you're here. So your opinion's actually a lot more valid than Jerry, who's a vegan, who's never been to Ireland.
Sure.
And knows fuck all about the meat industry. He's got an opinion, but is it relevant? It's only relevant to him and his group. I don't know who Jerry is, but he's sitting there fucking seething somewhere now. He's mentioned me again. I believe that you're right what you're saying. I actually completely agree. I think if you care about your animals and they're living in a good environment, and we talked about it earlier, they're out in the open, they're in the fresh air. You've said like a lot of them, 365.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic because they're living their life. I mean, how long does a cow live? If it wasn't being slaughtered, what's its length of life?
Cows, they can live 25, 26, 27 years, no problem. And I've actually processed a lot of the older cows and fattened them.
Yeah.
And they worked really well. A lot of you hear about the Galician beef from
Spain.
And it's meant to be the best beef in the world.
Yeah.
Well, we can do the very same.
So Galician beef, is it just older cows?
Old cows.
Is that what it is, really?
Absolutely.
Wow. You see, this is really interesting because I very rarely get anybody asking me for
Galician beef?
No, very rare. The odd one, or if I can't get something they want and I can get maybe Galician fillet, they'll go, yeah, okay, I'll try it. Mm-hmm. But very rarely do I get people to ask for it. And I didn't realise that's what it was older cows.
Yeah. So the older cow, when they finished in their dairy career, so obviously they get hammered by the dairy boys on a daily basis, getting milked twice a day. And
really?
So if you've ever seen any dairy cows, like, they look particularly bony.
Yeah.
And at the end of their career, they get a good fattening, and they put on all this new flesh and new muscle.
Wow.
And it's soft as you're going to get.
Is it really?
Yeah, absolutely. And like we do the very same in Ireland. We do a lot of that type of business in Ireland.
So Galician beef is old dairy cows
Yeah.
that have been fattened
Yeah.
and then slaughtered, so
Yeah.
they can get. So the cow has two careers.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's like somebody who does movies and TV.
Yeah. 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 Now, don't get me wrong about the dairy industry. You know, those cows are working on a daily
Yeah.
basis, and they're workhorses, and they get very well looked after. But if you go past the field, I don't know if they have them out in fields in Spain or wherever, but in Ireland, all the dairy herds are outside,
Yeah.
and the cattle, when you drive by in the fields, they look particularly bony.
Yeah.
And they are.
Yeah.
You know, because they're. You
But
know,
what are they feeding them?
oh, they're on grass.
They're on grass. In Ireland, they're on grass, are they?
Irish cows are on grass.
What about in somewhere like Spain?
I don't know.
Milk, dairy cows, are
couldn't
they on?
imagine they're out in the grass in Spain.
No.
It's not possible. So I don't know. I suppose they're grain fed or.
That's going to give you different kind of milk. I mean, do you
Yeah.
drink milk? Are you one of these people like me? I don't drink milk anymore. I'm an oat milk fan. Probably not good for me either, but that's just where I am at the minute.
Yeah, I've no problem about milk. I use a lot of milk in my diet.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I'm no problem with any lactose or
Yeah.
like that. And I'm happy with what I see at home
Yeah.
in the fields around Ireland. I'm very happy to see what's going on there.
Well, there's a certain look. I mean, the supermarket milk you buy in probably here. I'm not
Yeah.
sure on the whole French.
We get it you get it on a shelf in Carrefour.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a fan.
In the dry goods section.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, UHT. I'm not a fan of all that, to be completely honest with
Yeah.
you. I know that in some places down here, some of the bio shops, they were selling organic Jersey milk.
Okay.
Now, I suppose a Jersey cow is a bit more rain up there.
Yeah.
They're probably eating grass,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Well, we use a lot of our dairy herd is based on Jersey.
Yeah.
So it's been crossed a lot with the British Friesian,
Okay.
and it's the milk solids are much higher
Okay.
from the Jersey breed.
Yeah.
Milk is fantastic, and organic Jersey milk. Wow, you can't
Yeah.
get better.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. But when we order it from a bio shop, there's a couple of places you can go in and say, right, I need to get 20 litres of it. When it turns up, it's got 3 fucking days life on it.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do with that? Right, everybody, get everybody in. Everyone, we're going to have 15 cups of tea each now because you can't have them on Tuesday. Tuesday
Sure.
it's done. So let's all drink our tea now. Tuesday we'll just drink champagne.
Well, I came from a dairy farm, and the reality of it is milk goes off in 2.5 to 3 days.
Yeah, because it's fresh.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's all pasteurised these days. It's all
Yeah.
heat treated.
They're getting.
And they're
this.
getting, I mean, fresh milk, it's 10 days life on it now.
Yeah.
That's not normal, is it?
Yeah, well, I suppose if you're just going to kill bacteria in the milk, it's no big deal. But it's a long way from when I was growing up, and the milk lasted 2.5 days.
But this
You
is
open a
because
carton
the
of
industry's changed, isn't it? Yeah.
and the top 2 inches of the carton
Cream.
was cream.
Well, I remember that as a kid. You used to get the milk bottles every morning. I mean, I'm not that old, but I tell you what, I still remember the milk bottles at the house, and the top bit was cream, and it
Yeah.
had that little metal peel off.
Yep.
And you're right, there was always the cream on the top.
Yeah.
And I never knew there was a limited life on it because you get one every morning
Yeah.
or every other day, and you drink it. You go in your tea and your cereal and whatever it might be, and the next day the milk will turn up with the next one. But these days, industry's changed because generally you've got people wanting to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't put those people down in any way. It's just the way the world's moving. So you've got a dairy farmer who was doing local. And then he sort of realised that, well, I want to make a few more quid. And to be fair, if I expand the business, I can, on the land I've got, I can do twice as much. And then 4 times as much. And then 10 times as much. And actually can buy that field. And I can buy that unit. And I can bring in a better equipment. And before you know it, he's got 30,000 dairy cattle, and he's only got 3,000 people living in the town.
Yeah.
So he has to export it all over. Well, not export it, but move it all over the country. And all of a sudden, he's hit this problem where it's like, well, it's not fresh anymore after 4 days. So if you want it to be in Antibes and you're in the north of France, what are you going to do? You've got to pasteurize it. You've got to heat treat it to get rid of bacteria, and that extends the life. So you've now got 7, 8, 9, 10 days. And I think that all of these processes have possibly taken a little bit of the flavour out of some product.
Well, it might be a little bit more than that as well. Whether it's, what about the way people are living now?
Yeah.
And, we all, every family now has cancer somewhere along, and, we don't know where all this stuff is coming from.
I remember when I was a kid, the TV advert said 1 in 6 people will know somebody who's had cancer.
Will know someone.
Will know somebody who's had cancer. Now it's 1 in 2.
Yeah. Every family has it now.
I don't know anybody who hasn't known somebody who had cancer.
Yeah.
It's everywhere now. Yeah. And it's got to have something to do with the way we live our lives. And I would say, I think there's a couple of things. Food is obviously one of the things, hugely. And I think the fact that every time you walk out of the house, a car drives past you. I think this is the thing that most people are missing with cancer. Every car with a combustion engine is pumping out invisible poison.
Yeah.
In your street, next to your air that comes into your house. Maybe not if you're living out in the farm in Ireland, but in any city. And cancer rates in city are much, much higher than anywhere else.
Yeah.
And it seems to me the government knows this. The medical officers know this is the problem. And that's why you're starting to have more places wanting to have city centres without vehicles. Mm-hmm. They're closing the roads off and making this sort of pedestrian area bigger and bigger and bigger, because where the people are going to be living and where the people are going to be, you don't want there to be all of those fumes. So when people have a go at the electric car company, go, well, still making the electric from fossil fuel or whatever it might be. Yes, but it's not in the same place. Yeah. If you produce it here, out in the countryside, don't have a go at the countryside because I know you're a massive fan of that, but I'm just using it as an expression. There's your massive area you're making the electrics, right? And you're pumping out crap. Isn't that better to be pumping out crap in one place rather than every single car?
Yeah.
180 million vehicles across the UK with trucks and stuff, and they're all pumping out carbon monoxide every day in every street, next to your kids, next to your grandmother. It's there every day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that better just to be at this factory pumping out one place, and it's not going to be as bad? Because I think that's where the cancer rates are coming from. I think foods and diet, exercise, all these things are part of it, but it has to come from that pollution, which is generally pumped into your environment all day, every day.
Sure.
It has to be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But the governments know it, I'm sure of it. I think they're just scared to say, by the way, you're all dying of cancer because of your cars. Because it's a constant thing. It's there every day. It's like if you smoke 20 fags a day, you're going to probably get sicker than if you smoke 1 a day. So if you're in a street in a city, say, look, have you been to London? You've been to London?
Yeah, absolutely.
When was the last time you went in the tube and didn't blow your nose afterwards and it just be black soot?
Yeah.
It's like that in London, just in the streets. It's black everywhere. I'm amazed. Last time I was in London was in May. I'd completely forgotten that that's what it's like.
Yeah.
Because I live in a relatively airy place. And I was absolutely stunned again. I blew my nose and was like, oh my God, what is... And then it kicked in and went, yeah, that's the shit in the air.
Yeah.
That can't be healthy. That's in your lungs.
Yeah.
So yes, people smoke, drink alcohol, have bad food, processed food, whatever it may be. But it has to come down from what's in the air. And if you're out in the countryside in Ireland, I bet the air's fresh, as unbelievable fresh.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. You never get any dirt in your nose, do you?
The worst, well, we have pollen.
Yeah, well, that's another problem.
Yeah. But, no, for me, I just like to keep it as natural as possible.
Yeah.
And what actually... getting back to my beef.
Yeah, I told you I might trigger.
Yeah. Well, come on, come back.
Yeah.
So, I got into butchering in 1986, and I went off to college and I did my little bit of a thing in college and marketing and whatever. Ended up owning my own butcher shop in 1990.
Okay.
Which is a fair while ago now.
Yeah.
And back then, my meat deliveries came in. A guy pulled up in a truck, and he put a quarter of beef on his shoulder and carried it into the shop.
Yeah.
And the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and so on. and then we cut it up, and we'd no such thing as vacuum pack. We'd no such thing as bone-in meat the day after it was slaughtered.
Yeah.
You know, it just went into the fridge. So we were actually dry aging back then.
Yeah.
And we didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And the meat back then was dry aged.
Yeah.
And then I left the shop industry in 91 and went working with the big meat factory companies, and ended up working all over Europe within the bigger meat factories. And basically they were slaughtering animals.
Which company?
I worked with Dawn Meats, I worked with ABP, and then I worked with several companies in Europe. You know, we were all over the place, working as contractors. You know, I had a team of skilled Irish butchers, and we used to work abroad in different places.
Okay.
So, but the process was slaughter the animal day 1, day 2, debone into a bag, and then the meat was left to age in a bag. And after 3 or 4 weeks, you had this bag that was half full of blood, and that became the norm for everyone. And that's what we've been eating for the last 30 or so years, or 40 years, except for some small artisan butchers that kept going with their 1 or 2 animals or whatever.
Yeah.
So eventually I found myself working in a company up in Norway, and they did something novel, where they took off the prime steak cuts, as in the rib and the strip loin, and they put them into this dry age chamber that they were after installing up there. And I was skeptical of this thing. I said, no way. Come on, that's what are you doing? The meat is drying out, and after a month you're going to have nothing left. You know, you're going to lose your shirt. And then I tasted it, and wow, different product.
Yeah.
Totally different product.
Is that when you were sold on the idea?
I know. So I'm going back. I'm going back to Ireland. I'm setting up my own business at home.
Really? Is that what made you do it?
I'm doing this, and I'm going to sell my beef in New York, the best places in the world, and and off I went. And here I am now.
And that's what you're doing. So that's what made you decide to do it. You went to Norway. What were you doing in Norway? Working?
So I was working. I had a team of workers up there, skilled Irish meat boners, and we were up there for the lamb and the beef season at this time of the year. Obviously in the winter, they do nothing up there.
So you're waiting for spring.
So we went up there for a few weeks to make some quick money, and I just was amazed with this process.
Wow.
And you know, I got to thank the guys up there for showing me, and they actually showed me because I was really interested in what they were doing.
So what was their dry age room back then like?
So their dry age room was the very same as mine.
Oh really?
Yeah.
You just copied it.
And I just copied it.
Fantastic.
I even copied their logo a little bit as well. But anyway, they're okay. They're still operating away up there, and they're up in Norway. I'm down in Ireland, and that's fine.
There's no problems there.
Yeah, like we're not. But the one thing that I learned from them, it's not for the big guys. This is for small producers. The big guys, they don't like it. They don't like the word dry age.
Why?
Well,
because it's extra work to be done on a piece of meat that they don't need to do.
I explained to you earlier that there's a process to dry it out in stages. So you got to get your loins, as in your rib, your côte de boeuf, and your strip loin, your faux filet, and you have to kind of pre-dry them before they go into the dry age room.
When you say pre-dry, you mean try and remove some of the blood?
Yeah, well, no, it's when the beef is fresh, say within 2 to 3 days old, it's going to be the moisture is going to be fairly high in it.
Okay.
So you just got to take it down a step. So we just take it down in one of the bigger chills, and then we'll introduce it into the dry age room on about day 5.
Yeah.
When it's starting to crust, and then it won't affect any of the product that's already in there. But if you're introducing fresh stuff in there, you're introducing moisture, and it's going to mess it up a little bit. But I'm giving away my trade secrets there, and you're going to have to cut that out. I think.
You only tell us what you need, what you want us to know.
Yeah. But so I've really been looking at the big guys because, you know, in Ireland we slaughter 40,000 cattle every week.
40,000?
Yes.
Jesus.
I don't, but the big guys. And so I always look at ways of trying to avoid them, because 90% of the meat in Ireland is for export.
Yeah.
We have a small population and we're a huge producer of beef. We're actually the second biggest producer of beef in Europe after Italy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me, because I'm getting a lot of meat packages come through now and seeing Italy on them.
Yeah.
A lot. And it's not just beef.
Yeah.
A lot of chicken.
Yeah.
A lot of veal.
So
even in some cases, lamb, which I don't think is particularly good from Italy, but they'll be on the phone later having a word going, bollocks, our lamb's amazing, as of course everybody would. The British are great at that. And it's not just the British, it's the French, it's everybody. They all go, our beef's the best. I think that's probably one of the biggest bullshit phrases I've ever heard in my life. Nobody can say, British beef's the best, eat British. It's like this patriotic thing you have to do.
Well, I lived everywhere.
If you're British, eat British beef, otherwise you're unpatriotic. And I think it's bollocks. I think you should eat what you, either if through research or practice, what you like, what you enjoy, what you like the flavour of. And I don't think walking in Tesco and buying British beef because it's British beef, or British pork because it's British pork, is going to give you the best thing. Iberican pork is by far and away a fattier pork and a nicer flavour, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Dries out differently. It's got a different texture. There's many different elements of it. And I just think that anybody tells me British pork because I'm in Britain is the best is talking bollocks. It's not true, is it? A British strawberry's the best. Well, it depends, doesn't it? On the farm, on the variety. There's so many different factors. You can't just label something with a sticker in Tesco's going British is best. It's a bullshit marketing thing that unfortunately everybody's sold on because you have to be patriotic. Now, you're from Ireland, you're going to tell me Irish beef's the best, but not every piece of Irish beef.
You're going to tell me my beef is the best.
You're going to tell me yours is the best, and I respect that, because there's a lot of farms in Ireland, a lot of companies doing beef, Yeah. But some of them are just literally slaughter, get it in a packet, get it sold.
Absolutely.
And other people are dry aging, trying to get the best flavour, maybe on a smaller quantity level, and trying to produce the best quality they can. Because in reality, you can sell it for a higher price per kilo.
I'm trying to produce an artisan product.
Yeah.
All the time. So I'll go to the sales or the markets around Ireland and I'll buy the cattle that I'm looking for. I'll go to a sale with 2,000 animals there, and I might buy 4. Yeah. But they're the 4 that I want.
What makes you choose one over another? It's like being in the bar. It's like 9:30. You've got a glass of wine in your hand, and you're looking around, going, "She's nice. She's." Is it when you go to a cow auction?
If they blink at
you. What is it that makes you go, "She's a nice filly"? what is it that makes? What is it you go? I've got 4 out of the 2,000, but I'm happy with the 4 I've got. What is it?
So, well, I have a few characteristics I'm looking for. Number 1, because my farm is around my house, I'm looking for quiet.
And how do you test that?
So when the animal comes into a livestock ring, and they go around in circles. So if you see one looking up at the sky and fire in her eyes and steam coming out her nostrils, you say, no, you're not coming home to my house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking for something nice and calm and relaxed, because if you have that, then you're going to have stress meat. Right. So so I don't want that, and I don't want to end up chasing them all over the countryside. Yeah. So I'm looking for a kind of a quiet life. I like to buy, often you have farmers that bring 3 or 4 or 5 together to the market. Yeah. So if I can buy a group, I'll buy the group. Because
they know each other.
They know each other, exactly. They do know each other, like they're from the same group. And
so they're already in an environment when they move to a new place where the only thing they're dealing with is the new place, not new people too, cows.
So
it's like taking your mates on holiday.
Yeah, so the next step is for the animals at the market is they'll come back to my farm. Right. And they chill out there for a few weeks. And everything has to be, and there's different stages there, where they'll go from one field to the next until they're going for their last spin. Yeah. and that hopefully at that point they're well chilled out and relaxed, and they've got over their day at the market and all that kind of thing.
And is that stressful for the animal, the market day?
Yeah. So that's because there's a lot of animals there. They're all coming together. A lot of these animals were never away off the farm before, and it can be quite.
So they've never had a passport, never been abroad.
No.
All of a sudden they've gone on
Never on their
holiday
holidays.
to Magaluf,
Well-
had a few too many beers, don't really know who they're sleeping with,
Yeah. But
eating a different type of food.
it's very important that the animal is relaxed and that they're back to normality, because the pH of that animal is going to go through the roof.
Oh,
And
really?
that's going to lead to tough meat and tough and tasteless.
So how often do you go to an auction?
So we would have auctions probably 3 days a week,
Really?
and I'd have buyers then that would buy from me as well. And if I can buy direct from farmers, I will do that now. I'd have a number of farmers that I deal with, but to supplement that, I have to
You have to go to auction.
have to buy extra auctions.
Really?
But we would have a big farmer base as well, who would supply us, and that's very important.
Yeah.
So that's the livestock.
Isn't it? It's interesting to hear it, because I know the fish industry these days. A lot of the fishmongers have to buy their fish by auction now.
Yeah.
It's not the same, obviously. You're not seeing the animal beforehand. You're just knowing that there's that many 6 kilo sea bass and they're wild and they've just come in and there's only so many of them, and the price goes up accordingly to how many people want them. And then there's transport costs on top of that and stuff. So you've got the transport, because you pay the transport cost from the auction, and you get them immediately at the end of the auction. It's like get them in the van and take them straight home.
Gone.
No fucking around.
So I'd have transporters at each auction who will bring them. I don't go to auctions hundreds of miles or hundreds of kilometres away. They're all local.
Yeah.
And because of we spoke about the grass in Ireland and the amount of cattle in Ireland, it's huge. Like the population of cattle is, I think it's nearly 5 million.
Really?
At the moment, and like that's a pretty big population.
How long do you keep it for before it goes to slaughter?
So
or is it an age thing?
Age for me is not that important.
That's what she said.
When? But
age is not a major issue.
Not a major issue. It's the condition of the animal. I'm looking for heavily fatted animals. For me, the fat is most important. That's where all the flavour comes from.
Is there not, with fatness, also comes disease? I don't mean disease as in, how do I put it? It's like human beings, right?
Yeah.
The fatter they are usually means
the more likely they're going to die.
Yeah.
Fairly young. Listen. That's the nature of the thing. We're trying to fatten them because the meat of those type of animals
is going to be better.
Is the best.
Yeah, but the difference is with cows, I suppose, is they're not eating curly whirlies flakes, having a bowl of ice cream,
they're eating grass.
and getting pissed every night,
yeah,
smoking 20 fags, and getting fat because of that. Watching Netflix.
Yeah,
it's a different type of fatness, isn't it?
Around.
Yeah, they're walking around.
Grass.
They're actually probably fat, but they're getting a good amount of exercise as well, because they've got to find that grass. They've got to keep walking, haven't they? Keep going to the next bit.
Keep walking, and you keep eating lettuce.
Yeah.
See how much of it you have to eat to get fat.
Yes, no, totally. That's exactly it. If you had a human just eating celery, they wouldn't get fat, would they?
No.
You couldn't get fat. Maybe on the water content, possibly.
Yeah.
But so when we're talking, I'm talking bollocks then. But I'm just thinking it out as we go, because I'm thinking if they're fatter, have they got issues? Can they not walk as much? Are they going to have what are the lower legs like? You've got what's the marrow like in the bone, the shin bone that they cut and you split it and you bang it in the pizza oven and you've got the beautiful marrow. Is that different on an animal that's been dairied and then?
Yeah, well, back when I was on my travels through Europe, when I was working in Europe, I remember working in Belgium and seeing the Blanc Bleu Belge, the Belgian blue breed.
Yeah.
And they were so big, like they were massive, muscular animals that couldn't carry their own body weight.
Yeah, yeah.
And to see these animals, it's just
struggling.
Yeah. That was wrong. But they weren't actually fat, and it was.
They're just big.
It was just genetic selection.
Genetic issue, yeah.
genetic selection that kind of made the breed, and it's a bit unnatural, you know.
Yeah.
It's a little bit unnatural. They wanted the breed to be soft to eat. They didn't want fat.
Why not?
And all they wanted was this high yielding carcass. So they developed a breed over years and years, kind of a mixture of different races from Charolais and all different types of breeds. And they came up with the Blanc Bleu Belge. And I think they actually created a big pig.
Yeah.
Because it actually tastes horrible.
Really?
And one of the main markets now for Irish beef and my beef is Belgium.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
is the Irish beef market growing? Is it becoming more and more wanted?
Yeah.
People want more and more Irish, because I mean, even this summer, I get people asking me, obviously, like I said to you a million times, Australian and US Black Angus all the time.
Yeah.
There's got to be other options, which is why when we met, I got excited about it. It was like, hold on a minute, this is another option. This is something that could be really, really cool. But a lot of people just want that. And when I can't get it, I say to them, how about Irish Angus? And you get this reaction where they're like, okay, yeah, all right, well, if you can't get the others. I don't want that to be the case. I want it to be, I'd like the Irish, please. For several reasons. One, because the flavour's fantastic. That's number one. Number two, it's not environmentally as damaging as travelling halfway across the world.
Yeah.
It's just not. If it's coming from Ireland into Europe, which is part of Europe, that to me is a much, much better thing for Europe.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Well,
I'm a European. I'm in an environment of 740 million people in Europe. I like to work with my own.
Well, it's your local beef.
It's my local beef, isn't it? Why should
Yeah.
I not? Now, I want to talk about, you just mentioned Charleroi French beef.
Or the Belgian blue, Blanc Bleu Belge.
Is that where it comes from originally?
Yes, so Charleroi is part of that region. Yeah.
So tell me, what's your thoughts on it? Because I've never had, and of course I'm going to get destroyed in France. Look, I love France. I love a lot about it. I'm going to say this now to protect myself. I adore living in the country. I respect it immensely. I love everything about it. I've got the beaches. I've got the mountains. It's an amazing place. It's got probably the best wine in the world. Yes, arguably you can find amazing wine in other places. It's not great for olive oil, whatever anybody tells you. They've not got the right land and soil and water table and all the things that are relevant for that. I'm massive. I consider myself an expert on oil. It's probably one of the only things I'm an expert on. I consider myself an expert on oil because I've studied it for many, many years. And they don't have the ground for it. So all these people that go, I really love that one I got on. Yeah, no, you don't. You were told you it was good and you bought it. You don't know what good is. And their fruit and vegetables in season are absolutely outstanding. The farming in this country is amazing.
Yeah.
I've never, ever enjoyed the French beef. It's just never hit a chord for me where I've eaten it and gone, oh, that's amazing. And why is that? Is it the way it's farmed, or is it speedily put through the process so the flavour's not there, or what is it? And it's, a lot of people say to me, I went to France and I went to a restaurant, I had a steak, it was fucking terrible, it was grisly, it was tough, it was unpleasant, I mean, if it's unseasoned, that's the chef's fault, because you can't solve that problem in the farm. But what is it about?
So normally the beef in France, so it's different regions, different races.
Yeah.
So you have Limousin and Charolais and whatever in different parts, and you've Normandy cattle up in Normandy and the milk breed, and then you go up towards Belgium. Then you have the Blanc Bleu Belge, the Belgian blue. All those different beefs have different characteristics, and I'd say a lot of the big supermarket chains, they're responsible a lot for the quality of the meat. Like, I've been looking in Carrefour here this week and Intermarché, and I was not impressed with what I was looking at.
No, you wouldn't be.
With the beef. I was really, really disappointed. Like, to have some fantastic breeds. I don't know. I really don't know. It's beyond me.
I mean, if you're making a beef bourguignon, okay,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's great.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be flavouring that. I'm going to be braising the hell out of it anyway. So that's not a serious issue.
I think I spoke to you about a burger.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So part of my process in Ireland, I've a great friend that I work very closely with in Normandy, and he takes processing meat from all my cattle that I do the dry aging with. Every weekend we make a burger for a chain of burger restaurants. They're up in Paris, Factory & Co. So he was making this from my beef, and I went over there and I tried the burger in Factory & Co. and I went, wow, that's the best burger I've ever tasted.
Wow.
And it is so good. And he puts nothing in it.
So it's just
nothing.
beef.
Just beef. Well, sorry, I apologize. He puts a small bit of butter.
Okay.
Into it.
That'll do it.
Now I've had the burger down here, which is the same thing, just beef, and it was tasteless.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
You can't buy a decent burger in this region. I've tried. It's impossible. I've never had one. In fact, very rarely have I had a good burger anywhere, to be completely honest with you, unless I cook it myself or I hand make it.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed at how poor quality burgers are. I think people think what it is just you go bang a bit of meat into it and you're done. And quite often it's not seasoned correctly. I think the fat content's essential on a burger. You've got to get that right.
The fat content is key.
Yeah.
And I think the fat content from the burger that's been made in Normandy from the Irish beef.
Yeah. It's got a good fat content.
Right.
What do you think the content is?
The flavour in the fat is a little bit different.
Yes. Yeah.
The flavour you're going to get in the fat here.
So this is from your dry age process?
Well, no. So basically the carcasses arrive at the processing plant in mine. We take off the steak pieces. They go for dry aging. The rest of the animal goes for processing, for the burger in France. Yeah. And that meat it's top quality.
Yeah.
It really is top.
And are these the areas of the cow that aren't sold as much?
Yeah.
So all the different cuts, which, I mean, I see long list of different cuts.
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I only buying 3 of these?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what everybody wants is,
So you go to a restaurant here and you see faux filet, filet pour, bavette.
Maybe a bavette. I've only been
maybe an anglais.
I've only been to, like an anglais. I've only been to, what's that, hanger steak, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've only been to one restaurant in France ever that's done a bavette correctly.
Right.
And it's called a Mido in Cannes.
Okay.
I love bavette. If it's cooked right.
Yeah.
I have had it, never has it been cooked. Everywhere I've had it is you cut it, it's just like, hold on a minute, I can't even cut this.
Bavette is 1% of the carcass.
Yeah.
1%. So it's nothing.
It's not big. Well, hanger steak's even smaller. What, 800 grams?
Even, if that.
On a whole cow? How much does a cow weigh?
So the carcass cow will weigh close on 400 kilos.
Right, and how big is a fillet from that?
So
chain on.
Fillet from that chain on will be 3.2.
Okay, really? Wow. So
it's quite big.
How big is a Wagyu, Japanese Wagyu? Because I'm getting fillets at 5 to 6 kilos.
Yeah, they can be pretty big. Like
they must be huge animals. They must be what?
Kg fillet.
Yeah.
Is it a full fillet or?
No, a whole fillet.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. I had one last season. A chef said to me, I need a whole fillet. I was like, yeah, no problem. I got it from my supplier, turned up, it was 5.8 kilos. I said, what the fuck is this?
It's a monster.
It's huge. How big is that animal? It must be fucking 800 kilos.
You remember earlier we were talking about where the elephants are gone.
So a fillet would be about 3.2. And for those people that don't know chain on, chain off, explain that.
So, but basically, if you go into a restaurant, you're going to get your fillet with a chain off. So it's just a side muscle with a little bit of grizzle and it's a little bit tough, and it's normally left on by a lot of the meat processors. But me personally, I take it off because when it goes into a kitchen, they're going to take off the
What
chain.
do you do with it?
I just put it in the process meat that goes to France.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that goes to burgers and things
Yep.
like that.
Yeah.
It's good for mince though as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah, perfect.
I mean, there's many. The thing is, a lot of chefs are asking me for mince. They want up to 30% fat
Yeah.
content.
Yeah.
And that's pretty tricky around here.
Yeah.
I'm getting 5%. There's no flavour in that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not a great mince to use.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
the 5%.
we find the sweet spot for the burger is 20%.
Yeah, I think that's probably good.
20%
Yeah.
fat.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's really working well. And I was at the show in Lyon this year.
The SIAL.
The
Sierra.
Sierra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed you by a day, didn't I?
Yeah,
Do you
we
remember?
missed each other.
Yeah.
And I was with on a French stand.
Yes, we won't mention who it is.
We were next door to the Irish stand,
Yeah.
but we were promoting my burger,
Oh, really?
which was Irish origin beef produced in France,
Yeah.
and it was absolutely amazing.
I
Stole
tried
the
it.
show. Yeah,
You sent me down there. I went
Yeah.
and tried it. It
Yeah.
was fantastic.
top class.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's the story now. So, Damian Knight, are you going to buy some beef off me?
Well, of course we are. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons we're here. I mean, you've been waiting for the orders to come through.
Yeah.
Before we get to signing a contract, there's other things I wanted to talk about. So I want to know a little bit about Argentinian beef, because
Okay.
some people tell me it's incredible, but again, I've never had Argentinian beef and felt that about it. I've never had a fillet from Argentina and said, "Oh my God, that's the best fillet I've ever had." So, what is it about Argentinian beef that's, apart from a massive excess in beef that they have and they're trying to export and sell, which is to me the score? It doesn't seem like it's a specialist beef.
Yeah. Well, I suppose again, Argentinian beef, I wouldn't have a great knowledge on it, but it has a fantastic reputation
It does.
as grass-fed South American beef. Probably on a taste test, one for one with my own, I'm going to beat them all day long.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all I can say. But I don't know their practices there. I know that in America, the use of hormones is fine, the use of GM food is fine. Argentinian beef, yeah, they portray a lovely picture,
Yeah.
but I don't really know enough about that.
But the thing is, you can promote something with pictures and tell people a story, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean that that's not just one day a year that it's like that,
yeah, yes.
or 6 months. It doesn't mean it's a continuous. I think the great advantage with Irish beef is that you know that you've got the same conditions throughout the year.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm from the Isle of Man.
Yeah, across the road.
It doesn't get hot,
Yeah.
and it doesn't get that cold. It's got this very mild temperature, which is it's an unpleasant mild temperature a lot of the time. You're always wearing a coat, you know. You're always prepared for rain. I think we have our own cloud in the Isle of Man.
I arrived here last week. I was wearing a coat,
Yeah, of course you were,
sweater.
because you've come from Ireland
jeans, boots.
in August. Yeah,
Yeah, but
But-
that's where we were.
yeah, that's where you live, and the Isle of Man's like just over the water,
Yeah.
a short step. But you know, you don't go out in a t-shirt.
Yeah,
That doesn't happen. Even on a summer day, you don't go out in a t-shirt because you know that's not going to last.
yeah,
You know, you can tell by my accent sometimes that I'm used to it. And here, you know, I'm living in a place that's 42 degrees this summer. You know,
yeah,
it's unbearable.
yeah.
It's unpleasant. Nothing grows in those conditions. I've got a small garden. Nothing grows in 42. If you don't water it morning, lunch, and dinner, everything's fucked
Yeah.
in a day. It's gone. And we had rain the other week. The ground, after like 24 hours after it had torrential rain, was completely dry.
Yeah.
If you'd have put a humidity thermometer in there, it'd have gone. There isn't any, mate. It's gone already. It's completely evaporated in the heat. Golf courses have got no grass on them. Golf
Yeah.
courses around here have not been allowed to use water this season
Oh my God.
because there's a shortage of water, because we haven't had any rain in France for fucking 3 years. Everything's bare. Nothing grows. The farmers are having a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, a nightmare. And then you turn up and you rub in their nose the fact you've got this beautiful green grass. But I know what you're talking about because the Isle of Man's like that. You know?
And that photo I showed you, that was last week.
I'm going to put that up when we do this, when this podcast. I'm going to put that photograph up so people can see. That was last week. And the video you showed me, absolutely fantastic. You've got cattle out in the fields, and then when it rains, they go into the forest, and they just hide under there, out of the rain. And I think that's how they should be living.
Yeah, well, that's a supplier of mine, a farmer supplier of mine. The farm is called Ballyhenry Farm.
Yeah.
What an amazing place. It's an organic farm south of Dublin. Right. In a place called Wicklow.
But explain something. When you say organic farm, isn't all beef organic?
Well, I suppose, yeah. But
how could it not be? What's it eating?
Basically, the use of antibiotics or
anything unnatural.
Anything unnatural in this herd. It's a closed herd. Right. So what it means, the only thing that they bring in is maybe they will bring in a new bull. They'll introduce a new bull every couple of years or whatever. But the herd is enclosed, and if an animal has to be treated, it's removed from the farm. It's removed from the herd, and it's not sold under their banner. And I'm delighted to be working with the farm, because it's just. It brings the whole organic and bio thing to a whole totally different level. Really? And
what's the taste like in comparison?
Well, for me, I think the taste of his beef, it's just up a little notch again on what I'm doing. But I can't do that. I'm not a billionaire. Yeah. This guy is. In the middle of his farm, he has a film studio. Yeah. Where they shot Vikings, and all that kind of stuff. And it's an amazing guy, an amazing businessman, and just the way he's kind of built his life, and he's not too worried about the financial outcome of this. He just wants to.
Sometimes you get the best products when people are in that situation.
He wants to prove something, and what he wants to prove is that you can produce this organic product. I call it Organic Plus because I've never seen anything like it. Yeah. Because the cattle, basically he planted 200 trees per animal. So the carbon imprint, he's actually Carbon Plus. Yeah. You know, off a farm, which is nearly impossible. Yeah. His cattle are out 24/7. You know, he's got this amazing topography on the ground. Whereas at certain times of the year he has wooded areas where he can feed the animals through the colder months, and then the rest of the year, you know, the farmer sends me a photograph on the 1st of January, and there's a rainbow over this field of cattle in Ballyhenry Estate. And it's just amazing to see that, you know, and that's what we're here to promote. And that's what we want to sell. Yeah, and it's not a story. It's not made up.
The truth.
This is real. And anyone is welcome. Anyone can come and see this. Yeah. This is where it's at, and that's what I want to sell.
And that's what I hope we'll be selling next year. Absolutely. Is this organic, grass-fed, premium, dry-aged. You dry-age it for him, don't you? Yeah. So we've got the best of both worlds here.
So we're going to dry-age that product. We can make a burger separate from say, the Ballyhenry Angus. And we can give a Ballyhenry Angus burger that's going to be the best burger you ever tasted in your life. Yeah. And you can have the best steak you could ever had in your life. Yeah. I'd love to own the place. Yeah. I'd love if it was mine.
Well, let's see if we can get some sold and maybe we'll buy it.
I don't think so. Don't think it'll happen. But no, it's an amazing place, an amazing guy to work with.
You see, getting organic beef is hard. Yeah. Really, really hard. And even if you could. The problem I have in my business is somebody says to me, "Can you get organic beef?" And I go, "Yeah, I can get you organic beef." And then everybody wants organic beef, and I can't get it for everybody. Mm-hmm. What I need to make sure is I have a supply that's constant of an amazing product, not just for organic beef. It could be any product. The problem is somebody says, "Can you get it?" I go, "Yes." You need to have a constant supply because otherwise what's your reputation built on? The fact that you could get them that one product once.
Yeah.
That's pointless. If I want to be, considered the best of the best, I need to be able to have the best product. And getting organic beef is hard.
Yeah.
Really difficult. Extremely expensive, extremely difficult logistic-wise, especially for my industry where you never know who's going to order and when.
Yeah,
sure. I'm not dealing with restaurants who go, well, I know in July I'm full, so I'll have a full menu. I'm going to need these 3 cuts on a continuous basis. I've got all these clients which are yacht chefs who generally don't know where they're going to be. They don't know which boat they're going to be on next year.
Yeah.
I've got chefs who are finishing their season are going, it's been a bit of a nightmare. I'm probably going to move boat next year. They don't know where that boat will be based, where it's going to be chartered, what the clients are like. And I'm trying to buy product and supply them with suppliers like you, producers like you. I'm trying to get contracts signed and dealt with. So I'm prepared for next year, and yet I have absolutely no idea what's going to be needed and when.
Yeah.
And that's where I think when we've discussed things, it's a problem. I've got some clients that want, and I told you about a client around me the other day, he wants to have top quality beef. He wants it to be not full of moisture when he opens that bag. Dry aged, minimum 21 days, 28 is perfect. And it has to be fresh beef. Doesn't want it frozen.
Right.
And I've got other clients that go, as soon as you give it to me, I'm putting it in the freezer. So it might as well be frozen.
Yeah.
And so you've got these two very different types of people. So what quantities of fresh beef do you have sitting in your fridge, especially when it's got 30 days life? Because a client turns to me and says, oh, it's only got 2 weeks left on it, I'm not interested. Sure. You're like, what? You're kind of stuck. And that's the problem we have. We don't know who's going to be ordering, when they're going to be ordering, where it's going. I mean, we were in Sicily last week, Dubrovnik the week before, Split. We were in Corfu. We're doing deliveries all over the place. It could be in a van for 48 hours. You know, at 5 degrees, 4 or 5 degrees, traveling across Europe. We had one on a ferry, a Genoa to Palermo ferry, 20 and a half hours, and then 3.5 hours over Etna to get to the boat. So it's a complicated logistic nightmare. The reason I look tired now, I've just got over COVID, which I got again recently, because my immune system's down because I ain't sleeping.
Yeah.
Because I've got 30 grams worth of food on a ferry going to Palermo on until it's
twin.
Yeah, until it's delivered, you're not really chilling out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People go, oh yeah, you were at home last night. You're okay. No, I'm looking at the orders coming in, and I'm trying to, in advance, work out how to logistically plan that, so that I don't piss everybody off, including the people that work here.
Yeah.
It's not just the clients I'm looking after. I've got to look after my staff and make sure they don't hate me.
Yeah.
The ones that hate me have left, and the ones who are quite happy with it stay. But you have this season. I'm not sure what it's like for your business, but we have this one, boom, it gets busy. That's down, then there's nothing. Boom, then it's busy, then it's nothing. And then you have this period in the winter where nobody calls.
Yeah.
And you wonder if maybe you've died. You think, have I died? Or is my phone, what's going on? No one's emailed me for 3 days.
Yeah.
And you're like, maybe this is a fucking simulation. I don't know, because nothing's going on. And that's this particular industry, the super yacht industry. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's a really fun, exciting place because I get to meet people like you who've got a passion like you can't believe for producing an amazing product. I get to eat and taste the best food in the world, whether it's olive oil and caviar and vanillas and beef and you name it. It's amazing. But then you have this constant stress of making sure you've got product but not too much. It's in date. It's not short dated because people don't want short dated. Even though it's in date and they're going to eat it this week, the boat will say, no, I can't have it on board unless it's got a 3-month shelf life. And you're like, so how do you deal with that? Because these crackers go out of date in, 15th of October.
So where did they
You've
get
got
bread?
it chartered this week, and you need them for this week, but because they haven't got a 3-month life on them, the boat won't accept them. So everything, you're looking at the dates on everything, and you're constantly. it's a constant challenge, I think, for anybody in the industry.
We're back to strawberries in January.
Back to strawberries in January, and fucking blueberries come. I mean, I read about the blueberries recently. Is why I mentioned it from Peru. Gassed. I mean, by the time you get them, they could have been off the tree 2 months.
Yeah.
Well, how can you keep something legitimately in a good condition for that amount of time?
Yeah. No, so you should be able to tell the seasons by what you're eating.
I think that's right. But if you're a billionaire, you want a strawberry now.
Yeah.
Yeah, what would you like? I'd like a fucking strawberry. Well, they're not in season. They are somewhere. Fly them in.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's not strictly true, by the way. They're not always in season. But I had this discussion with someone. I got triggered on Facebook. Somebody had said, why is it I cannot get blood oranges at this time of year? So I saw it, and I went, they're not in season, actually. That's the reason why. It was a yacht group. Should never have got involved. Don't know why I did. As a yacht provisioner, never get involved, because it ain't going to end up very well. So I did get involved. It was late. I'd been thinking.
You're wrong.
Yeah, and I was like, no, they're not in season. And they came back to me, well, they are somewhere. And somebody came, you can get them in Australia. I live in Australia now, and I can buy them in my local supermarket. And I went back and said, look, this is the situation. I can fly in your 2 kilos of blood oranges from Australia, and they will cost me $20 a kilo to buy from somebody in Australia, and they will cost €780 to be shipped to me in Europe. And then when I turn up at the boat and give you your 2 kilos of sanguine blood oranges and charge you €500 a kilo, you're going to call me a thief. So yeah, everything's possible, but there's a price that goes with it. It's not cheap to have anything anytime. If you want whatever you want when you want it, yes, possible, there's a price with it. You can't start becoming an importer of Australian sanguine oranges just on the off chance that one boat in August fancies a kilo. Yeah. Do you see my point? And this is, I think, what's forgotten is that people go, yeah, but you're yacht provisioner, get your shit together. Okay, pay €500 a kilo. And that's the issue, is if they go to their boss and go, I've made you a juice, sanguine, how much was that? 500. They're going to lose their fucking mind. And the reason they lose their mind is because they're not stupid. That's how they became a billionaire.
Absolutely.
Billionaires aren't idiots. Doesn't matter what anyone tells you. There's a few maybe stupid millionaires. Yeah. I get that. I understand that people get lucky or in the right place or connected, but very few stupid billionaires, in all honesty. That is another level. And they don't pay €500 for a glass of orange juice.
That's right.
Because they're not stupid.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Absolutely, 100% on that, because anyone who has $1 billion in their bank account, they made that money themselves.
Yeah.
It wasn't given to them.
No.
Because no one gets that.
No.
You know, and you have to be fairly smart to do that. And they're normally down-to-earth people as well.
Yeah.
And they don't like getting ripped off.
Yeah. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
And that's the same for all millionaires, don't like getting ripped off.
And they love straight talking.
Yeah.
Straight talking. You know, just tell them as it is.
Just don't bullshit me, just tell me the truth.
Yeah.
And I think that's something in my industry that there's a lot going on. A lot of bullshitting.
Yeah.
A lot of bullshitting. And I think people want the truth. When I'm dealing with crew, for example, I go, can I have this? I'll go, no. And they'll go, what do you mean, no? My other provisions said they could get it. I said, but you come to me because they didn't get it. They said they could. They didn't. They failed. And you gave up on them. I'm telling you the truth. Now, we're both not providing that product. There's no difference in the service, but the communication is different. And the truth is, you need to find, we together need to find possibly another solution, because what you're asking for is not in season. I cannot get you white truffle because it's not available till October.
Yeah.
Or maybe September in some parts of Italy. But generally, if you ask me for white truffle in June, the answer is no. If somebody else says, well, I'll try, they're a bullshitter. It's not true. It can't happen. It's not possible. So you have to be truthful with your clients, and you have to tell them the reason why, and hopefully they're reasonable enough to go, yeah. Now, I had it not so long ago where a client asked me for white truffle in the middle of the season. I said, it's not possible. They went, well, the owner says it is. I said, well, put them on the phone. And they said, well, I'm not going to put you on the phone with the boss. I went, but I know what's happened. He's gone to a restaurant and had a pizza in Naples whilst you were there last time. And they've got white truffle on the pizza. And so he's gone, I want fresh white truffle on the boat. There's only 2 places that's come from. It's come from a jar and it's preserved, which is one possibility, which I doubt. what's actually happened is the summer truffle is black on the outside. When you cut into it, it's so dry that it's like a grey texture inside.
Yep.
That's the colour. It's not white, it's just a grey texture. And quite often in pizzerias, especially with the summer truffle because it's so cheap, they'll just grate it on top of the pizza and it looks like it's white truffle. And then what they'll do is put a bit of white truffle oil on top. Hopefully a good quality one, maybe not. But you'll get that white truffle-y sort of hit when you take a bite of it. And you go, oh, that's amazing. But it's all fake. It's all theatre.
Yeah.
Truffle is theatre in the middle of the summer. You have to flavour it with something because there's very little flavour in a summer truffle. And it's so light inside because it's so dry because there's no... Truffle's a mushroom. It's a fungus. It grows with the rain. That's why you get the amazing truffles in the winter because it's raining. You go through your farm and see what mushrooms growing, don't you, when the rain comes.
Starting to come now,
That's how it comes. I get them in my garden, these weird things growing in the middle of the grass. I haven't got any grass because it's the summer. In the middle of the dirt, I get these mushrooms growing when the rain comes. But it's the same with the truffle. It grows in those conditions. So the truffles that are summer are smaller, dry, awful. And the problem is I'm getting people saying to me, well, the boss says he had a white truffle in Naples last week on a pizza. It's a hard argument to have. I'd say just put him on the phone.
Yeah.
And they would never do that, of course. But I just want to say to him, which restaurant was it?
Yeah.
I'll give him a call because I know what the score is.
Yeah.
We all know what the score is because if you know about beef. So if I give you certain, you'll go, no, I know what happened there because you've got the experience to know about it, haven't you? You know, you can tell whether something's going to be. You can tell whether it's dry aged or not.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you went to a restaurant and they said it was dry aged beef, and they brought it out, you'd be able to go bollocks.
Absolutely.
What would be the main thing that would?
So I will always have a little look at the exterior of and I'll know a lot from that. The meat, it will be drier, slightly drier.
Yeah.
Flavour will be more intense.
Yeah.
There will be a little hint on the outside that would, when the meat is prepared, lard already, or larder trimmed by the chef, it should get rid of any outside bits, but you will get that more intense beefy flavour. And if someone is claiming that it's dry aged, now again I mentioned that the dry age process is for the smaller producers, because for the big guys to do it that are processing hundreds and hundreds of animals every day, it's just not possible. They just don't have the space.
Yeah.
Because the rooms have to be quite small. The airflow has to be low.
Yeah.
So if the airflow is low, the room has to be small.
Yeah.
So these big companies, they can't have millions of small little rooms. Just never work. So it's thankfully there's a niche.
Yeah.
The big players, okay, they're trying to beat it with wording. And a lot of the time you'll notice in the supermarket you might see dry aged matured for 21 days. That means that it was slaughtered today, it was hung in the fridge overnight, so it's dry aged, and then it's matured in a bag for 21 days.
Right.
And there you go, hey presto.
But that's packaging and shipping times.
Yeah. And then it goes to, it goes on the supermarket shelf, and the customer in the supermarket
thinks
is
it's
under
dry.
the illusion that it's dry aged, and she says, tastes the very same as anything else.
Yeah.
So they're going to say, I won't get that again.
Yeah.
But the real dry age is a different story.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the truffles.
Yeah, and it's I noticed this from companies like Aldi and Lidl saying they're going to sell a Wagyu burger. I think there's a Wagyu farm in the UK or Wales or somewhere, and they're saying they're selling Wagyu burgers. And so Jimmy sees it on the TV and goes, I've always fancied one of them. He's a bit pissed after his Friday couple of pints with his mates, and his wife said to him, can you grab some potatoes on the way home? And he whizzes in Aldi and he says, oh, a couple of Wagyu burgers, £6.50, I'll have those. Yep. And he goes home, he puts them in a burger. They probably don't season them anyway, but the point is they're dog shit. Yeah. And he eats it and he goes, this Wagyu nonsense is nonsense.
They're trying to kill it, and that's coming directly from some of the big guys.
Big guys, yeah.
That can't do it.
They want to try and get Lidl to say, look, we've got a new product, we can give you Wagyu burgers for £1.
Well, they're working alongside with and who's steering the whole thing?
Yeah. The supermarkets, I would presume.
I don't know. Are the supermarkets being been led a little bit.
Do you think?
And because some of the bigger guys are big.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're actually huge. So.
But I met a buyer, I won't give his name out, from a very large French supermarket at SIAL a few years ago. And we were both talking to the same producer on a stand.
Yeah.
And I introduced myself and he told me what he did. Very high up in a very, very huge company. And I can tell you he knew fuck all about food. Yeah. I mean fuck all. Nothing. He didn't have a clue. I'd sat with him for 45 minutes and talked about food. He didn't have a Scooby-Doo what was going on. And he was there like top guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, how?
See, Damian, do you know about money?
No, obviously not.
Yeah.
My podcast studio doesn't scream rich, does it? But the point is, it's such a, this is the thing, is I'm at this intense level in the food industry where everything has to be the best of the best.
Yeah.
So I've got this best of best attitude where I presume everybody who's in the food industry knows their shit, but they don't know their shit. And I go to the SIAL and the SIAL whenever they're on because I enjoy going to them. I like to get out of the office and actually have a wander around and go to Paris, and it's fun. And I meet some great people. I see some suppliers there. It's just nice. I get to see some new stuff, but I educate myself at those shows. It's not really about finding new suppliers. It's about education for me when I go. So I wander for 2 days, talk to a load of strangers, have a great time, learn a bit.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at how few people know anything about food at them. I mean, really about the high-end quality side of things. I'm not saying they don't know about food. Probably know business a damn sight better than me, but they don't really give a fuck, most of them, about this quality. Yeah. I find it bizarre that the food industry isn't about quality. It's about quantity. And that seems to be the only thing that's interesting, is quantity. Get quantity sold. Sell as much as possible. And there's no care about the quality, and you can see that on many of those stands. You've been to SIAL, haven't you?
Absolutely,
in Paris,
yes.
You can see it, can't you? It's just dog shit.
I was at SIAL last year, and sure, you know how many people go to SIAL?
Yeah,
like gazillions.
Yeah, it's the biggest food thing in the world, isn't it?
I met 2 people there, and we had a cup of coffee and chat about the business that we do together, and says, right, see you at the next one.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't really interest me that much.
Yeah.
I walked around, I did the tour around SIAL just to see if there was anything interesting there.
Never is there.
From any of the internationals. I saw a couple of things, you know, because you're always looking for new ideas for your own business. But there was nothing really that jumped out at me.
Yeah.
And it's rarely that something jumps out.
Yeah. And
the last time something jumped out at me was in Norway.
Yeah.
8 years ago.
Yeah, and that changed your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was, oh my God, what have we forgot?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what it was. What have we forgot?
I think that's what I'm always looking for. I'm always looking for that thing that's going to spark something in me.
Yeah.
Because I'm always, I mean, they say travel broadens the mind. Whenever I travel to a foreign country, I'll go and have a look around the food markets.
Yeah.
Because I want to see what they're selling, what are the people eating.
Absolutely.
I went to Norway and they have chocolate cheese. Have you ever tried chocolate cheese?
I lived in Norway for a while, and the chocolate cheese, no.
No, I didn't like it. I tried. I've got a video somewhere of me trying it. It was like, who woke up one day and went, you know what we need to do?
Yeah. We
need to put chocolate in cheese.
Yeah.
Who did that? It's crazy. It doesn't always work, but just going and seeing that and tasting it is fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
You go and taste something that you've never tasted before. I've got here a agave worm salt. So it's the worm from the agave cactus plant. It's the one they put in the tequila bottle.
Yeah.
They take them out, they dry them, and they smoke them, and they add them to salt. It's a Mexican product.
Right.
And it is a game changer. Now, when I first heard of it, I went, I'm going to order some. I want to see what it's like. I got it from a very good supplier. Trusted them a lot, so I bought it. I opened it up, had a little smell. I was like, wow, that is absolutely fucking outstanding. The smell of it, I love smoked things, you know, so I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then I tasted it, and I was like, this is amazing. So when I make my own handmade burger, which is better than Gordon Ramsay's, and I love Gordon Ramsay, but my burger's better than his, I've created this recipe from all of the amazing products that I found around the world, all creating this amazing umami flavor that you get from beef. And I use this smoked salt, this cactus plant worm salt in the burger, because it gives this extra layer. For me, food is all about layers. I think any really top chef will tell you about layers. And it's the same for most industries, actually. Comedy is the same. If you have a good comedy, it's because it's layered and structured. And that's the same for food. It should be layered. There should all be these different layers of flavour, which when you eat it, you go, I don't know why I like that. I just know it's fucking outstanding. And that's what I love about food. And that's what I love about cooking, is that you can get something, and even if it's something that's not the best flavour in the world, you can create flavours and you can make it amazing. I think in my business, I prefer to sell product that's amazing, because then it's easier for the chef. You know, he doesn't need to do as much to it. And I think actually the best cooking is when you need to do very little to the product. That to me is when the product shouts and screams out and says, I'm the best. You know, whether it's a cherry tomato, rocket leaf salad you're making, if you don't have to add too much to it, and you let the produce speak with a beautiful olive oil, a nice balsamic, that's what is exciting about food. But I also think the layered structure it's an art form. Anybody who can create those layers, I see chefs all the time doing it. I'm astounded by what they achieve. But that's what it's all about, and that's why in my burger I put this agave worm salt. It's a smoked salt. It's got sweetness to it. It's got saltiness to it. It's got smoke to it. All three things I love. And for me, that's what makes that burger the best burger I've ever tasted. Okay. I've tasted hundreds. I love burger. But that burger with that salt in has got a layer that you don't get in another burger. Right. It's got worms in it.
The burger challenge is on then.
The burger challenge, yeah. I mean, maybe when I come up to Ireland and visit you, which let's try and do that this winter.
I'm going to have a box of them delivered to you next week.
I'm going to make you a burger. I'm going to send it to you as well.
I'm going to send it down.
I'm going to send you it. I'm going to send you some burgers. How many's in the family?
Listen.
I'll send you a box.
I'm going to send you the burger, and you're just going to say, right, just add the salt. Maybe,
Yeah. But yeah, I think for me it's about finding amazing product. That's what I want, and I always want to find something that's good. You know, a chef phoning me up saying this is what I'm looking for, and then knowing that I know people like you who I can phone up and go, look, this is a product that we want, and you turn to me and go, not only can we do that, but we can do it organic. We can even improve on what the client's asked for. That's the exciting thing. Trying to scale that sort of business is hard, of course, as you know, because it's niche, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Very, very niche. What you're doing is niche.
I wouldn't want it any other way.
No. And I think you're right. I don't really want to be selling 200 million euros worth of basic food.
I'm quite happy.
That's Carrefour does that.
It's a bit like what you're doing. You know, this can't be done on a big scale.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is artisan, it's small, it's niche, and I'm quite happy to keep that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want a second premises. I don't want a second home. I'm fine. You know, I'm just happy to live where I'm living. I'm living in a beautiful place. I'm happy with my lot.
Yeah.
That's fine.
How far out of Dublin are you?
I'm about we'd call it a 2-hour drive.
Okay.
But I'm living on the coast.
Yeah?
Yeah. So it's a beautiful area where I'm living.
Nice golf courses down that way?
We've golf courses everywhere.
Everywhere in Ireland, isn't it?
Yeah. We have them every 5 miles. Like
really?
A championship or something.
Really?
I think within 20 kilometre radius of my house, there's about 5 or 6 18-hole championship style golf courses. Yeah. Really, really top.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And you don't play?
I gave it up.
Did you?
Yeah. Too much work on my shoulders, and just frustrating.
So, tell me something. Running a business in Ireland has its advantages, doesn't it? Well, it has a lower tax rate, doesn't it? Has a lower tax rate.
We have a lower tax rate.
What's the tax rate in Ireland? Corporation tax.
So corporation tax in Ireland is 40%.
How much?
40%.
40?
40%, yeah.
Is it? That's a lot.
Yeah.
So for every €100 profit your company makes at the end of the year, 40 of it you give to the Irish government.
Yeah.
That must really hurt.
That hurts, but sure, you have to make money then in order to pay tax.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part.
Yeah.
But
And what do they do for that?
Who?
The government, for their 40%?
Not a lot.
No.
Not a lot.
Macron's never called me and given me a new client.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give him a lot of money every month.
Well, don't get me wrong. There are local supports. Like we have the local enterprise office, which I'm sure you have something like that.
Yeah.
Down here as well, and they'll give you help and they'll give you grants, but you can spend your time on projects, and I have enough projects. I know my goal, and I know what I want to do, and it's not to be a huge producer. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, and just get the right set of clients, that I don't have to go begging every month for my paycheck. You know how it works. So and I'm sure it's the same for you. Like, you're dealing with some lovely clients down here.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And it'd be nice to bring something different.
Yeah, well, I think we're doing it. I mean, for me, it's essential. I personally think that this, the Australia. Look, you know what the big problem is for me that pisses me off, in all honesty, is when I have suppliers who tell me it's difficult. That I get annoyed by it. How many times this season have I found it difficult to quickly get Black Angus fillet? Right?
What's difficult about that?
Exactly. I'm talking about Australian and US, which seems to be the only fucking thing anybody wants these days.
But they're imports.
They're imports. There's limited quantities, and I've got suppliers I call up who constantly tell me it's a problem, quantity-wise.
Sure.
And I want to solve that problem by finding a European product which is kick-ass, which blows them out of the water, and which I can have a constant supply of, so I don't have those issues anymore. Because I've had enough of sleepless nights wondering, will I get that tomorrow? I had enough of that. It really pisses me off. I just want to provide what the client wants, and I think the way to do it, it's like Henry Ford said, if I gave them what they wanted, they'd be having faster horses, right?
Yeah.
If I gave them what they wanted, it would just be bigger imports of Australian and American beef. Well, fuck it. What we're going to do is we're going to start bringing in your quality beef, and we're going to sell that to them and say, here we go. This is a product we think you're going to love. Try this and tell us it's not as good.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they'll be able to.
Absolutely.
I've tasted your beef. You sent it down to me. I've had it on the barbecue. I've cooked. I've done all sorts of stuff with it. It's as good, if not better. But the main thing for me is, it's difficult to compare the two because I haven't eaten a fillet steak from each at the same time. But I know what I'm doing with a steak. I know how to cook it. Your that Côte de Boeuf you sent me was absolutely outstanding. I sent you a picture, didn't I?
You did.
I cooked it and sent you straight a picture. Went fucking phenomenal. It was beautiful, and there is no way I've had a Côte de Boeuf from anybody else that's better. Okay. Mm-hmm. I've never had one as good as that.
Yeah.
So that's it. I'm done. I'm sold. I'm in. I'm ready. Yeah. And I think my clients are ready as well, because I know that they're ready to buy a premium product that's European, that they can have whatever quantities they need anytime. As we know, we can get the product quite quickly, but it's essential that I get this out to people next season and say, look, here, try it. It's phenomenal. And that's what I'll be doing, because I've had enough of all this importing across the world and the product not being either good. I mean, tell me something. Obviously, it's an animal, so they range in size, correct?
Yeah.
What would you say the average fillet you're saying is about 3.2 kilos?
Yeah, off the type of animal that I would slaughter as in a
I'm getting fillets from the US. One fillet will be 1.4 kilos, and the next one will be 2.5.
Yeah.
It's completely... to me, that's a huge range.
Yeah.
A huge range. So if I'm getting fillets from Ireland, from
and are they all classed as Angus or American Angus?
Black Angus. Yeah.
Well, they should be kind of peas in a pod then.
I think they should be relatively... I mean, if you're looking at 2.25 kilos, I mean, I'm not an expert in it. That's why I have people like you on, because I'm not but I'm curious, and my clients get upset by it. They say, Damian, you've sent me 3 fillets here. I've got one that's 1.5, I've got one that's 1.8, and I've got one that's 2.4.
Okay.
I've got no fucking clue how that's going to work. Do you know what I mean? Because if you order a fillet, you're going to go, well, if it's Black Angus, I know it's smaller, than some other animal. So I'm looking at probably, people would say 2.5, 2 to 2.5
to 3 kilos.
Yeah. But an Irish Angus would be 2.5 to 3 kilos, wouldn't it?
3 kg,
yeah, around that figure.
Yeah.
But 2.5 to 3 kilos seems a fair size difference. 1.5 kilos to 2.5 kilos for me is taking the piss.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that's happening.
Yeah, well, a 1.5 kilo fillet from an adult animal is something very small.
Yeah.
So.
Or it's veal.
I know, so it's probably not veal. It's probably from a dairy animal that's
you reckon?
been processed.
Yeah.
So they're not going to have any finish on them.
Yeah.
And you're just going to have these small fillets that are a little bit floppy.
I think people are always going to want to have Australian, American. I mean, as far as Wagyu's concerned, I haven't had a European Wagyu that I think's great yet. I've tried the Welsh. There's a British farm, isn't there, near Leeds?
Oh, there's plenty of Wagyu farms getting up and going.
There is, isn't there?
In Ireland, it's the buzz at the moment.
It is, isn't it? Well, the quantities of Wagyu we sell now every year go up.
Yeah. Everyone wants to try Wagyu.
Yeah.
But I think, as you mentioned earlier, as soon as they try the Aldi Wagyu, they're going to say, "Oh, that's done."
That's crap. And if you get a good, I mean, look, the Snake River. I had a Snake River farm brisket.
Yeah.
And we'd had it here. We actually ordered it for somebody. We ended up getting 2 arrive. They were 7 kilos each. So obviously the boat took one, and the other one was still here, and it was getting close. It was fresh. So it was getting close to the time when it was going to be.
We'll cook it.
I need to either cook it or freeze it. So I actually cut it into strips like this, and I froze each one for me. So I had it in my freezer because I can't have it here. So I had it in my freezer. Nice pieces like that. And what I do every now and again is I take one out, I defrost it, I cut it into 4 pieces, so square pieces like this, and I braise it for hours. And then what I do is I make a wash with sesame oil and black garlic ketchup. And I cover it in that so it's nice and braised, and I bang it in the oven. And I crisp it up in the oven. And it's absolutely phenomenal. And that cut was, I can't even remember the price, it was like €39 a kilo.
Yeah.
But it's astonishing. Now, I personally don't think, if I had the option, why would I buy a fillet?
Yeah.
There's no need.
I'd agree with you about brisket. Like another market in Estonia, up in Tallinn. I was up there this year. Very young, vibrant city, and it's really, really kicking off up there. And they have a big barbecue scene up there. Yeah. And there's great hunger for brisket of beef. And I brought brisket up there, and I had my own brisket.
What size are they?
So they're 6-7 kilos.
Yeah.
And my own brisket cooked in a Puckula tap room. It's a big barbecue style restaurant, but I wasn't really sure what to expect.
What was their meat like?
Well, it was mine.
No, I mean before they got yours.
They were using American. Okay. They were using American Angus.
Yeah.
And
probably a Creekstone.
Yeah, maybe. But I tried this, and I said, that's the nicest beef I ever tasted in my life.
Yeah.
It was, wow, brisket. I was putting it into processing meat up to
It's
that.
such a beautiful cut. If you know what to do with it, it's absolutely stunning.
I
mean stunning. In fact, I for me, if I go a place and I know the chef knows what he's doing, because you need to know what you're doing, I would order brisket. Because to me, it is heaven when I eat that and it's cooked right. If it's cooked badly, it's hell. But if it's cooked right, it's amazing. And I wouldn't... Look, you can go and buy Wagyu fillet steak in a restaurant and pay €95 for 200 grams of beef. But you can get a piece of brisket. It's not about... forget the money side of it. It's a nicer piece of meat.
Yeah. Flavour is
got
amazing.
So much flavour. You can do so much more to it. If you get a fillet, it's like, well, I need to see it's fillet because I'm paying €95 for this. So bang it on my plate, put a little sticker on it saying, this is fucking fillet. Cook it how I want, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
But with a brisket, there's options. You know what I mean?
It's amazing piece of beef.
Yeah.
For me, I'll give you my score sheet. I'd say brisket, feather blade number 2.
Yeah, as we said earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. Ribeye comes in.
Yeah.
Beef cheek.
Right. Wow. Okay.
I might go strip loin.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and chuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beef chuck.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
What would you do with the chuck though? What would you use for that?
Slow cook it, braise it.
Slow cook and braise in slices, nice thick slices. Yeah.
Leave the fat and interior fat.
Yeah.
Slow cook, braise.
Yeah.
You can't get better.
Yeah.
You know, it's just amazing.
And what about the paleron? The
Paleron again,
feather
slow
blade,
cook.
slow cook as well.
Sous vide is a good way to cook it.
Yeah.
There's a restaurant in my hometown in Waterford, Everett's fantastic. He's a Michelin gourmet, and he uses that as part of his menu. And wow, it's just every time you go there.
You see, if I go in a restaurant and they've got these different cuts, I'm more obliged to try them.
Yeah.
Because I think this is an opportunity. Going to a restaurant and having a fillet steak is to me a little bit.
It's boring.
Yeah, you know, I can cook that at home. I mean, I can cook anything at home, but I like to go out and try a cut of beef that I wouldn't normally have.
Yeah.
That's quite fun, and yeah, it's very rare in France. You go to a restaurant, it's either fillet, entrecôte, or sirloin. It's usually entrecôte. 9 times out of 10.
You see a lot of these Michelin pretentious kind of guys, and they want to shock people.
Yeah.
You know, give them something that's, God knows what.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, sheep's eye with his.
Well, that's the problem. I'm not into all of that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like pig's feet and stuff like that just because it's cool these days. I'm not into any of that. I like to have my meat normal, but I want to try a cut that you don't usually see in a restaurant. And in a restaurant, it's fillet, sirloin, and ribeye, and that's it, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
and don't forget your bavette. Then we're in France.
Yeah, that's quite popular in France, but Jesus, they don't know how to cook it. I'm not saying all of them. I'm blanketing the entire country by saying they don't. But and to be fair, it's not just that they can't cook. It's pretty much all beef and meat they don't know how to season. Do you know how many times I've been to a restaurant in France and the meat's not seasoned? I am fucking astounded by it. I mean, astounded. How can you go to a beef restaurant? There's one near here that I've been to several times, and I know the manager really well. And I said to him one day, I said, "What's going on?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's not even seasoned. It's basically a piece of cold meat taken out of the fridge, which is the worst way to cook something, cold. Banged it into a pan, seared it up. It's gone,
got angry.
It's gone, fuck off, like this, right? He's not even walked past it with the salt. Yeah. It's literally gone, he put it on the plate with a load of uncooked chips.
Yeah.
And he calls himself a chef. I said, "You need to have a word with him."
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, we've had a nightmare this year." I said, "Man, you're the manager. I understand. I get it. I run a business. I have a nightmare too. But I never turn to my customers and say it's my staff's fault."
Yeah.
That's bollocks. It's my fault.
Your pal Simon was over in Ireland with me a couple of months back.
Yeah.
And he came down to visit my factory, and so I brought him into the dryage room when I was there. Yeah, this is this, and this is that. So I said, "Right, I'm going to cook a steak." So I brought out a big loin of beef and bang, open the block and just cut off a bit out of the middle and straight up to the kitchen, got the pan, did exactly what you said, got the steak and whacked it on a hot pan straight out of the fridge and then just cooked it and threw it up in front of Simon because I knew that Simon was horrified. And he was looking at me, "Oh my God." And then I just cut it right. I said, "Taste that." And he just tasted it. Holy God. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I said, imagine if I cooked it properly.
Yeah. The thing is, with a good quality product, the product does the talking.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if you've got cheap meat in a restaurant trying to budget to make money, which I get, and no criticism of that, you've got to treat it with the utmost respect to get the best out of it.
Sure.
And that's the thing about quality of food. If you're dealing with shit quality, you know, we used to have it in the Alps when I used to run these hotels and chalets. We didn't have a budget. I think the budget was like fucking €18.90 per person per week.
Right.
For a week. We're talking pennies. So what did we do? We bought in bulk, we bought cheap.
Yeah.
Right? Everything was the cheapest you could get. So the beef was the cheapest beef you could possibly get. And I used to say to staff, braise the living fuck out of it. Put it on in the morning after breakfast, right? On a low temperature with the lid on and leave it for the day. Go skiing and come back. When you come back in at 4:30, you're rocking and rolling.
It's going to be lovely.
All you need now is a sauce.
Yeah.
Because it's got no flavour.
Yeah.
But at least you can eat it now. At least it's going to fall to pieces. But that's what you had to do. And that's what you have to do with poor quality meat. You can't treat it with disrespect, which you can to good quality meat. You can do that. You can take it out, bang it in, cook it, slap it, and go, there you go, because it's going to taste amazing. And I think that's a good sign. If you're ever going to test meat, the way you did it is the way to do it. Because you put it in the worst environment possible and it still shines.
What I was trying to do was sales. That was my sales promotion with Simon.
There you go. But for me, that would have worked with me. I'd have gone, you've done everything wrong.
Hooked.
And fuck me, it tastes amazing. That's the secret. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's exactly what you should do. Because if you actually go through the whole process, make a nice sauce, do all the bullshit, they're going to go, well, I don't know whether it's the beef or whether it's the process now. So, yeah, I think if you're having people around to do that, that's a perfect thing to do.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with cooking meat straight out of the fridge, as long as it's good quality meat.
Yeah, well, it's nice to have it done right.
Of course.
Give it a bit of respect.
There was one other thing I wanted to ask you, and it was at the tip of my tongue a minute ago, and I got triggered by the meat thing. I can't remember what it was now. But no, I think I really appreciate you coming down. You're on a holiday. You got the family here. They're all sitting, probably eating croissants now.
Yeah.
Hoping you'll be back soon.
Yeah.
Thinking, where the fuck is he? And they've texted you, but you can't hear it because you got it in your pocket and you got it turned off because we're in here. But I really appreciate you coming. It's been really nice to have you in, and for me, it's really good to have people in who know what they're talking about, really know their product, really know their industry, because there's a lot of noise out there, especially with social media these days, where you get these TikTok experts who know fuck all about food, read some recipe, decided to make it with their fancy camera. It's all bollocks. It drives me crazy. I see it all the time. I quite fancy starting my own food TikTok and showing people exactly what they should be doing. And there's quite a lot of those as well. I see a lot of recipes for poor quality fattening food on gym social medias. Why is every gym thing showing you how to make a fucking chocolate chip cookie?
Yeah.
What the hell's that all about? I don't understand. You should be doing beautiful, fresh food, not this crap. So I see a lot of crap out there, and I think everybody does. And I think today hearing a bit of fact from somebody who knows what they're talking about, who's been in the industry a long time, is absolutely fantastic. And I hope that our clients listen to this, because for me this is essential listening if you are into cooking meat, and beef especially, of course. So thank you for coming on. And let's do some business together this next year and see where it all leads.
Yeah.
And maybe next year you can come down in for your holiday in September, and I'll be like your number one, client. You'll be like, this has been fantastic. So let's hope we get that sorted out.
Please God.
Thank you very much for coming. And
Yes,
we'll speak soon.
Yep.